I'm Shane Nyland, and my co host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi 2004. Let's start with the easy place to start then. Let's start with who the fuck you are.
All
Because
right.
I know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Jesse Jordan. I was a vehicle commander with MAP 2, or started out, I guess, as CAAT 2, but we essentially were the test bed for the whole MAP concept going into Ramadi. I don't know if anybody else that did it before us, but I know we changed to that during the workup. So
yeah, as far as I know, mobile assault platoons were not a thing until our deployment, and it to my understanding, you went back, so I don't know, but they remained the standard after us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure now, like, even pubs are focused on map and not as much on cat. I think that even the pub now says cat/map.
Yeah. And the idea was mobile assault platoon had dismounts built into it, had multiple weapon systems, so you had multiple capabilities, versus CAT was focused on combined anti-armor teams, hit and run against tanks and armored targets, and occasionally buildings, though really that was not the goal. So yeah, it was very different. And remind me, you were a sergeant when we went into Ramadi, right?
I was a corporal and then picked up right after we went in. But because I had done an enlistment prior to as an 0351, and back then, like, that was like a pain in the ass to get promoted as a 51. Like, you had to wait for somebody to die.
You were a retread?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came to us. He came to us in Okinawa.
Yeah.
I just thought you came from security forces. I didn't realize that you came back in.
Yep. No, so I was in 1-3.
Okay.
I was actually on my second UDP when the towers got hit.
Okay.
So then we all thought we were going into Afghanistan. You know, the fact that we were already forward deployed, and at that time, Afghanistan was part of PACOM. It wasn't part of CENTCOM. It eventually, I think, got merged into CENTCOM. It was in that, like, weird area, and so we're like, "Hey, this is our show," and they're like, "No, it's not. We've got a few that's going. You guys need to be fodder for Korea if North Korea pops off." And so at that point, there was a lot of people that got out because they were like, "Well, the biggest war of our generation just kicked off, and we're sitting here and going back to Hawaii instead of actually deploying."
So you're the bad luck charm. That's what happened to 242, man. It was you again.
I know. And it's funny because I checked in. So I only got out for about 4 months. I tried to reenlist, but all these old grunts when 9/11 happened came back in. And so all the boat spaces had closed out before I could reenlist. And they were like, "Well, you can be an Amtracker." And I was like, "You can go kiss my ass. I'm not doing that." And so then I got out. I was getting out in September, and the career planner was like, "Just get out and come back in October." Because they take a month off and come back in. And so I spent about 4 months out, and a month of that was trying to come back in, because I had to go retake the ASVAB. I had to go back through MEPS and get my butthole looked at again. Like, I had to do all that stuff all over again.
Did you have to get an ASVAB waiver the second time?
I actually did better on the ASVAB the second time than I did the first time.
Now that's hilarious. Probably because you took it, but probably because you took it more seriously, honestly.
That, and I had not done math in 4 years. So I started the math portion, and I had to keep asking for scratch paper because I was having to figure out how to figure out the problems. And the guy was like, because you had to turn your scratch paper in with the test. And so I had like a stack of scratch paper for all my notes and stuff on it. And I actually did better on it the second time. And then when I came back in, I got orders. They were like, "Hey, you're going to 1st Marines." And at this time, we had just started heading into Iraq. I'm like, "Hell yeah, 1st Marines, they just crossed the LOD. Hell yeah, I'm going in to get some." And they're like, I checked into 1st Marine Division, and then they gave me my orders to 5th Marines. And I'm like, 5th Marines, they're marching on Baghdad right now. I can't wait. So I get my orders to 5th Marines. I go and check in at 5th Marines, and they're like, you're going to 2-4. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. This is 5th Marines. And they're like, here's the history of 2-4. And they hand me the paper with the history of 2-4. And I was like, where's 2-4? And they're like, Camp Hansen, Okinawa. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I just left there. I was furious. And then I get there, and I told them, like, do I really? Because you guys were on your way back. I mean, you'd already been there for 8 months at this point.
Long time. There's a lot of disgruntled people by the time you got there.
Yeah. And I think you guys were on ship, but they were like, we don't know when they're coming back, so you're going to meet them there. So you guys were on ship. I get to Okinawa, and I sat there for a month with them trying to figure out if they were going to send me to meet you guys on ship. And then they're like, no, they're on their way back. And they're going to stay here. So then they're like, wait, the ship broke down, so we're going to send you out there anyways. And I was like, all right, cool. Got everything packed. They're like, wait, nope, they're on their way back. The ship's fixed. They're on their way back. So you're going to stay here. I'm like, all right. And then
story checks out. You're a real 2-4 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit.
And then we got back. You guys got back, and they were like, yeah, we're going to start packing everything up. So I came out there to help you guys clean weapons, to turn everything back in gear, to turn everything in so we could come back to California.
Well, if no one else has told you, thank you for your service, for cleaning the weapons. We appreciate it.
But also, I was a 51. And when I came back in, they moved me to 52.
So that was going to be my question. Did you have any kind of test or anything to be a 52? Or are they just like, nah, you're 52 now? It's pretty close.
Well, when I went through anti-armor school on the East Coast, it was, it was combined. I don't know how it was on the West Coast, but
it was split. It was split on at least when I went through on the West Coast. 52s were in their own class by themselves.
The only thing that we did different were the 52s would go out and get their Humvee license.
Yeah.
And they would go out and disass their own weapon systems.
Yeah.
But everything else, the whole anti-armor stuff, everything else was in the same classroom. So I guess that was where they were like, I mean, you already have gone through the school. You're a corporal. You don't really need your Humvee license because you're going to be a vehicle commander. Or a gunner. So here you go.
Right.
And they just moved me over. So. Everything I learned about toes, I learned from you, Shane.
Oh, Jesus. That's terrifying. I mean, well, maybe good, but maybe terrifying.
Yeah.
So fast forwarding to Ramadi a little bit, who was in your truck? I don't remember who was in your truck. I mean, I can guess just based on my memories, but.
Yeah, so it was, Calais was my driver, who I still to this day will argue with anybody. It was probably the best driver in the battalion. The kid could put Humvees in places at high speeds that he actually made JD scream one time, which I'll tell that story here in a little bit. I had Imai was my gunner, which I ended up having to go to testify at the court martial for, and got my ass chewed at a court martial for.
Yeah, we all
did. Yeah, and then Bass, he was our combat replacement. He came in and kind of took over. Webster was my dismount. And then Webster had to move up into the gun when Eli left. And then we got Bass as a combat replacement. He came in and was essentially my dismount that time. So, which then I had to fire Webster because he forgot to do the headspace and timing one time. After he told me he did the headspace and timing, which, if he ever gets on here, remind him of the story about how I had to fire his ass.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure he'll listen to this.
Yeah. And then Bass one time forgot to put ice in the cooler because, we always took the coolers out with us. And you would have thought, I thought I was going to have to put him under our squad bay in a grave after that. But that's your only job, is to go get ice.
Especially as a PFC. You don't have any other responsibilities. Get ice.
Go get ice.
So what mission was it that Webster forgot the headspace and timing? Because I don't remember this at all.
Luckily, it was when we were doing the fan fire on that on the levee. Remember when we went out and did that fan fire the one time?
Yes.
Every day, I'm like, Webster, you did the headspace and timing. He's like, yep, headspace and time is good. All right. So we get out there, and obviously it's like, da, da, pop, 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 pop. And I was like, Webster, did you do the headspace and time? He's like, yeah, did it. And Swede by that time is already marching up the
Yeah,
foot of the
no
truck.
shit. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
anything that have to do with the 50 cal, like he's not even going to ask. He's just already marching up on top of the truck with the headspace and timing gauge, and he's gauging the thing. And he's like, the headspace and timing on this thing's not set. I'm like, Webster, you piece of shit, get out of the turret right now, bastard! You're now the gunner.
Well,
And
especially
bastard,
by that time, because we had been in Ramadi by the time we did that FAM fire. Oh, months. I mean, that was June or something like that.
yeah,
I don't.
it was probably about 2 months before we left. It was,
Yeah, June, July, somewhere around there.
yeah.
It was
I mean,
hot.
it was hot. It
And
started getting really
I was
hot.
not out there for the FAM fire. I got called into headquarters to go talk about who the fuck knows what, but I did not. I was not there for the FAM fire.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Yeah,
Some of my guys went, but I did not go.
yeah. Yeah, we fired a couple of AKs and stuff that we had taken off of objectives and stuff like that. But most of it was just to make, because things had kind of died down a little bit, right there. So we were like, we need to put a few rounds to these guns just to make sure everything's ready to go. And so we didn't have anywhere else to shoot the big guns. We didn't have a range or anything like that to test fire. So
It's true. Yeah, and the Habanilla Dam was, I mean, a couple of miles flat out as far as you could see.
yeah,
Probably the safest spot to fire a 50 cal is anywhere.
yeah. Yeah, especially, I mean, those marks and everything, because you know how fickle those Mark 19s can be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes your round is short and sometimes it's all the way at full measure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were talking about JD screaming. Now I'm curious about that story because I don't remember that one either.
I don't remember where we were going, but we were down around like by the soccer stadium. You remember how wide that road was right there by the soccer stadium, and it had like a median in the middle.
That
And
was the Easy Street, right?
Yeah, I think it was Easy Street.
That was the big one.
Yeah, it's funny because I've talked to people who went to Ramadi after us. They're naming all these streets and stuff off, and I'm like, we named these streets. I have no idea what street you're talking about. I had to go back and take a look at the map that had all the names and stuff.
Well, I was going to say, how much mapping did you do? I don't think you did. How many ops did you lead where you were mapping?
Not very. Not,
I just
not
say
any really.
I think me and Randall did 90% of the mapping.
Yeah. Which, looking back on it now, and this is when I made a comment in our group chat about that. This kind of looking back on it now, I really wish we would have brought the vehicle commanders in more for that type of planning and stuff. Not so much the mapping, and obviously Randall, he did most of our sections, scouting and everything else as far as route selection and everything, but just like the planning and that kind of stuff. Because one thing I learned at MARSOC was like planning is like they really, especially whenever I first got there, they really harp on every individual being a professional at planning. And I wish we would have done a lot. I wish I would have done a lot more of that in the infantry. Is like really harped on planning with the younger dudes.
That's an interesting. No, that's an interesting point. Now, Blake, with your platoon, I don't know how it went, but did you have guys who went to the head shed and got the major plan from like Major Wiley and everybody else who was in the HQ building, and then just disseminated the pieces to everybody? Because that's what happened with us, and I never really thought about that. But you're right, we should have sand tabled it.
No, they had it was. So if you remember, we didn't have a lieutenant. It was Gunny Cook was our platoon commander, and then Esquivel was our platoon sergeant, so to speak. And so those two would go over, and then they gave it to a couple of the key leaders, but they didn't even round up the vehicle commanders necessarily all the time. I mean, if it was a bigger operation and I was as a vehicle commander needing to like do something specific, there would be a little bit more of a debriefing, but most of the time it was like, we're going to roll out, we're going to set up a cordon, just I'll tell you where to go. So
and that's what and at that point, like the youngest guys don't really even know what the contingencies are. You know what I mean? Like the privates, PFCs don't even know what the contingencies are. And that's, in my mind, looking back, I mean, obviously, none of us have been to combat before. Like,
Well,
and
and
we were kind of figuring it out as we went.
well, and you brought that up in the first part too, and Nylan and I have talked about it subsequently ourselves. Is that we did the first of so much of the stuff. When we first got tapped to go over and do the relief, and they were acknowledging that we were going to do mount training or mount maneuvers. The publication that at least I was handed was from 1957. It was talking about how to use rifle grenades inside of a urban environment.
Yeah.
And so like we were coming up with that. And I think that's where some of the disconnected, and I'll speak just specifically for Rainmaker, is I remember Cook saying a couple times to me, like, I need you to focus on, like, for the first while, I was a driver over there for him because he's like, I don't want to get lost in a combat town. You have the best sense of direction. I trust you to be the lead truck with me to be navigating this stuff because we're literally inventing this as we go.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I give a little bit of a, it would have been nicer to be brought in and sand tabled out. Yeah. But I think at least for the first half, I know that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this, those in charge, the sergeants, were kind of keeping their cards close to their chest because I don't know if they felt really confident that they knew what was going on, or not going on, but like, this is the plan. I'm confident in my plan. And so I'm feeling confident into saying it out loud. And maybe it was a trust thing. I don't know. But 81s run differently though. We got some of the smart, we have a few of the smartest and then most of the dumbest of of the weapons company. You got to have a couple ammo bearers, you know.
Well, you probably had a lot of Pokemon players and stuff like that too. That like, well,
yeah,
some D&D, a lot of D&D players and everything. But
anyway, I interrupted you. You were talking about Easy Street with Calais driving.
Yeah, so this was after you remember JD's truck got dismantled when Morris got hit with the RPG, and we just, instead of getting another truck, we just spread load his truck. And so we were the only platoon rolling around with just 5 vehicles for a long time.
Yep.
I guess the second half of the deployment. And
so that had to have been early, man, because you guys got the up armored eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even obviously it was before that, but it was then. Well, it was the night Morris got killed. So it was what, April 8th?
April 4th.
4th. I went the wrong way. My math went the wrong way. Yeah, so it was the night he got killed, and then so JD jumped in the truck with us, and JD would be on the radio, and that's what he was like. I would rather be running the platoon than trying to run a vehicle. And so he was like, I'm just going to sit in the back of your vehicle. You run the vehicle. Let me run the platoon. I was like, perfect. So he got in the vehicle and he's in the back seat and we're hauling ass down Easy Street. And I don't know if we were the second truck. I don't remember if we were the second truck or what, but on that street, it was very wide and it had a spot for people to park their cars and their big trucks and everything on the side.
Yeah.
And Calais is like trying to stay away from the median because, that's about the time they were placing shit in the medians. And so Calais he's over driving in the parking area, but he's headed straight towards the truck. And, he's like going in and out of these vehicles as he finds space. And he's headed straight for a truck. And JD looks up just as we're headed straight for a big, like, 18-wheeler truck. It just screams, Calais! And like I'm dying laughing at this point. I'm like, it scared the shit out of me. He's like, Calais! And Callie's like, what? It's almost like when your wife sees brake lights and like puts her hands on the dash and you're like looking at her like, I can see the cars are stopping. I'm hitting the brakes already. But that's kind of what it was like. But he's screaming back there and it scared me. And then I started laughing. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I remind JD of that every time I talk to him on the phone too.
It's
Yeah.
good. You should.
Did you
Yeah.
guys end up, I don't know why this made me think of it, but did you guys end up getting any of the gear out of any of the caves? You know what I'm talking about? Like when we first got, so Rainmaker got two vehicles that were from some of the, in case of invasion of Europe,
Oh,
there were some caves that had a bunch of old stuff in it, and that got filtered down to us. And I know it got disseminated in our battalion. We got two of the trucks. And I was,
yeah, I don't know.
and both of those trucks were pieces of shit.
But
Uh, they were the first. It was like the first iteration of the Humvee, and there was a
mm,
reason why they changed it because the transmission kept getting shot. And but I wasn't sure. Did you guys end up with any of that stuff?
I don't
I
think
don't,
so.
I
If
don't think,
anything, maybe our high back was from there, but just because the high backs came from weird places, and it
yeah,
was an early model, but I don't know where it actually came from.
I forgot we even had a high back until you just said that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because Geezer was the gunner on that truck.
yeah. It finally got replaced eventually when we got the up armoreds, but we had that
Yeah,
high back when we first rolled in.
yeah, and
Yep,
then Knife was a dismount of that truck. Geezer was the gunner. I can't remember who was that. Swede's truck.
that was Swede's truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, and then I remember when we got the up armors and they had the AC in it,
Yes.
and you guys got the bolt on armor that was too heavy for the suspension on those Humvees, and
Yep.
so every one of them was bow legged going down the road. But
Yep.
then JD was talking shit about the truck being cold and his nipples being cold, and our truck with the AC, so you can't went in and unhook the AC. But in the front seat, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't that hot in the front seat. For some reason, JD would get out of the truck and just dying. He'd have to go get an IV because he'd be dehydrated.
Yeah, he was talking shit. Yeah, he said exactly that. He was like, "Oh, I think my nipples are getting hard under my armor." I was like, "You
Yeah.
motherfucker!" All right. And so when he stepped out, he wasn't looking. I slipped around the backside and I unplugged the fan that was for the condenser, so it wouldn't blow cold. It would only blow hot. And and I left it for about like a 6, 8 hour op. And when we got back to Hurricane Point, I walked over and I was like, "Hey, LT, come over here, look at this." I plugged it back in, started blowing cold. He's like, "You motherfucker!"
Bro, I think it was longer than that. I think it was a couple of days because
It might have been because he pissed me off because I was dying. I was sweating so fucking hard on every
yeah,
one of those ops. That was in the middle of like July or August.
because we got out of the truck after a mission and you were like, and he was like, Jess, take the truck over to the motor pool to see if they can fix this thing. He was like, I am dying back here. And then you were like, hey, yeah, yeah,
That's awesome. Dude,
yeah.
I think honestly, all of our drivers should have got some kind of medal. You telling that story about Calais just reminds me of a million different stories of Haradsky doing the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
driving through IEDs, driving through mortar fire. Calais the same. I remember Calais driving through
Yeah,
mortar fire, weaving in and out of mortar fire like it was nothing.
yeah,
And I don't know how. Again, I mean, I know the medal situation was weird with that time frame, and people just didn't get awards. But I mean, when my truck got hit, uh, Hradsky got the whole all by himself, got the whole truck up on his own at Combat Outpost. Went and got a spare tire, went and jacked up the truck on his own, replaced it, got everything cleaned up, got all the gear back in place, checked the guns and everything. I mean, it was wild the amount of stuff that our drivers did and how fast they could drive.
yeah. And trying to weave those trucks in and out of like the traffic in that
Oh
place
yeah.
and those narrow roads. Yeah,
Well, I think that's something that people don't realize either. Anybody who is on the outside of this deployment is when you see movies about Iraq or video or pictures, the streets are clear. Well, that's because that's the middle of a gunfight when somebody decided to take a picture. Yeah, the streets did clear for big gunfights. But on a day to day, there was as much stop and go traffic as there is in Los Angeles or New York.
oh,
Like it was bumper to bumper, and you had to negotiate Humvees through that.
Well, I have a
yeah,
couple videos of us trying to get through market center and having to be completely dismounted. just to keep space for the vehicles.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's what, like I've told people about us doing that. In fact, like even some of the convoys that we took through there, they were just dumbfounded that we would get out of the vehicles. But I mean, that was the safest thing to do, was make sure nobody's going to run up and throw something in the a grenade or something like that in the turret, or you know.
Well, that was I remember we were doing a lot of that because we had the high backs in it for exactly that reason. I mean, talk about throw a grenade in the high back with those half shields that were on there. That would have been nasty.
Yeah, yeah. And then I remember Newmeyer walking through the market one time, and this is when I realized he couldn't see, but he's walking through the market and he's got his rifle down, and he's like sweeping back and forth like this with his rifle, like just flagging everybody in the market. And I was like, "What are you doing, Rambo?" What? And he's like, that's when I realized he couldn't see anything, and he was keeping his rifle out so that way nobody would get close to him because he was blind as a bat. Like,
He was using it as like a blind cane.
yeah. Oh my God. Oh, Newmeyer.
Dude, and what's funny about that is even though he was mostly blind in the one eye or whatever, I mean, I remember when we figured that out and we held him down in the hooch and we're like, all right, tell me about your fucking eyes. What's going on with your eyes? And he's like, all right, I haven't been able to see in this eye for a while. He was the highest marksman scorer on the rifle range we did before we deployed. He had the highest score out of everybody. So he was our best shooter.
Yeah.
And could barely fucking see.
Well, it's probably like you see those Olympic shooters and they have the eye cover covering their non down. That's probably what it was. Like he had a laser
keeping that front sight post perfectly in focus. Can't see behind it. I just just got it right center in that rear aperture. So Jordan, I had one for you. One of the things that I enjoy kind of remembering myself and my kids enjoy the most are those really stupid things that happen where you're just like, what? First of all, how did this even happen for me to be in this situation? And then the what the fuckery that like kind of what's one or two of those that pop into your head in those categories?
Oh, for one, I would say, like, I think when I look back, like, I'm one of the few people out of our company that doesn't have a Purple Heart.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think I'm one of 5. I think that was the number out of our company that didn't have a Purple Heart.
I would say there's not many. I didn't know that either.
That's surprising. Were you one of the ones that turned it down, though?
No.
Oh.
No. I mean, the only thing that even came close, I had an RPG land between me and Matroka one time. We were fighting down Round Apple, and we had been fighting for a few hours at this point. And so we obviously were going down alleyways and clearing alleyways as we're fighting down the road. And I mean, the road was just wide enough for 2 vehicles and kind of bounding up, and fighting down the road. And so I followed Randall down. We had shot somebody and they went down this alleyway. So I followed Randall down there to see if we can find the guy that was shot. And, they would snatch guys up if they're like, even locals would snatch people up and pull them into their compound so you wouldn't be able to find them. And Randall just starts taking off, kind of paralleling the road. And I'm like, dude, where do you go? He's like, I'm going to go flank him. I'm like, are you going to fill anybody else in on this plan, or you're just going to do it yourself? And he just didn't say anything. He just kept going. And so I'm like, Matroka, let's go. So me and Matroka and Randall are going down, paralleling everybody else. And we get pretty far ahead of everybody else.
This was April 6th. I remember this one.
Yeah. So we call back and we're like, hey, we're ahead of you guys. You need to cease fire because we're taking fire from all sides now. From behind us and in front. So we're pinned down behind this flatbed trailer. And the flatbed trailer is like right up against the wall. and there's a telephone pole between the trailer and the wall. And so there's really nowhere to shoot from the left side of the trailer. And Randall's shooting from the right side of the trailer. And the trailer was just high enough that I could see over it, but I couldn't get my rifle over the top of it. And so I'm like trying to stand back, trying to shoot, but the trailer is like right at eye level. So I'm like on my tiptoes. So I jump and start shooting as I'm jumping, shooting over the trailer. So Matroka's facing down the alley, making sure somebody doesn't come around behind us. And so we all start just kind of rotating as dudes are emptying a mag and rotating. And Randall had found this he's the only person in the platoon that had a 203.
Yeah.
I don't even know where he got the 203 from, but he's the only person in the platoon that's got a 203. And he found one of these old 203 vests that went over your interceptor vest and had he looked like, we called him the Unabomber because he looked like a suicide bomber with all these 203 rounds in it.
Remember. That's awesome.
Because he did that, he didn't have any magazines on his vest. And so he had made this like drop holster for his magazine pouches. So he only had 4 magazines on him and then one in his rifle. And so he starts to go Winchester. I think he's maybe got a half a mag left. And he's like, hey, do you have any extra magazines? I'm like, no, I don't have any extra. None of them are extra. They're all going to be used. So we're now, and then Matroka's rifle kept jamming. And he was like, he turns and he's like, hey, do you have any COP? I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? We're in the middle of a firefight. You don't have any magazines, and your rifle's jamming because you didn't want to clean it. So I'm yelling at Matroka about not cleaning his rifle on our downtime. And he's yelling back at me about how he did clean his rifle. It just keeps jamming on him. And then Randall is about to go Winchester, I think. So we start rotating, and I'm shooting out. And about that time, the trucks come driving up. And we were like, thank God, because the truck, we had more ammo in the truck. So we go back to the back of our column of vehicles, and we're loading mags back up and get ready to go back. And me and Matroka are walking back up to get back into the gunfight. And we start just looking at each other laughing like, this is ridiculous that we just are unscathed coming out of this. We were just pinned down behind this trailer, yelling at each other. And then just as we're like laughing at each other, an RPG hits right between both of us and hit the ground and blew both of us off the road. I thought I had been shot in the shoulder. I thought something had hit me in the shoulder because I guess it knocked up a piece of asphalt or something, hit me in the shoulder and spun me around. Like I thought I'd been shot. I'm like, yep, that's it. I just got shot. And I look over and Matroka's back is against the wall and he's down on his knees and
he was partially buried. I remember that shit.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, are you okay? Are you okay? And he looks up. He's like, when I hit the wall, a brick fell off and hit me in the head. It's like, if anybody ever saw this from like a third eye, like they'd just be dumbfounded of the stupid shit that we're doing right now, that's going on right now.
We're the most lethal military in the world.
So but, I mean, a little of the added information of coming to get you and Matroka and Randall. I was the leading part of the directing the Humvees, what to do and where to go and how far to go. And we had those shitty ICOM headsets. It was before we actually got the little black whatever radios that we got that were better. But those green pieces of shit that only worked for maybe 100 yards if you were lucky.
Yeah, the PRRs. Isn't that what they were called? PRRs?
Dude, I don't know. Yeah, PRRs. Actually, yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Randall is screaming over it, I need more ammo. And I'm like, I don't know where you are. and he's like, I'm right in front of you. I was like, the fuck you are. The road is empty. There's dudes shooting at the end of it. You're not them. And he's like, I'm in between you and them. And I was like, okay, where did you go? And he's like, I'm on the northwest side of the road. I was like, okay, you've just given me a mile or so to search. Can you give me anything more than that? He's like, well, you see the flatbed truck? And I was like, well, there's 2 of them. And there's one close and one far. And fortunately, they were at the one that was closer, but it was still a couple. You guys had gone several hundred yards.
Yeah, we were a couple of blocks.
Yeah, ahead of everybody else. You guys are way separated. And I was like, okay, I can put down some cover fire and all that, but I don't want to kill you in the process. And that was what I was thinking. I didn't even say that. I was like, I don't know where you are. Fucking throw smoke, do fucking something. And he throws a magazine in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
I see a magazine come flipping out and land in the middle of the road. He's like, did you see that? And I was like, did you just throw a fucking mag? He's like, yep, that's where I am.
Yeah.
You autistic motherfucker. All right, fine. All right, we'll come get you.
So we were actually behind that trailer well before that. We had gone back into the alleyway because we were running out of ammo. And I think I had one mag left, and I don't know if Petroka had what he had left, but Randall was all like, he had only had a few rounds left. So we were like, hey, we need to do something. But the road kind of had a slight bend in it.
Yeah.
And so that's the only reason you guys like didn't mow us down in the first place. Is
I'm after remembering that, you saying that and remembering this, I'm fascinated that we didn't blue on blue and kill you. It's because we were shooting down that road the whole time.
Yeah, and I think just because of where our position was, and the fact that we were low, we were staying low, so you guys were essentially shooting over our heads, and there was a few instances like that. When the night that Morris got killed, whoever shot the RPG was between me, Matroka, and Calais, because we were sitting in that little hide site. And what was it? Ghost. What was the guy's name? Miranda.
Jose Miranda.
Yeah. Miranda just started opening fire towards where the RPG came from. Well, we were on the other side. And so we were listening to 240 rounds cracking over our head. And so we just kind of hunkered down for a minute until that stopped, and then we got up and tried to close with whoever it was that shot the RPG. And that's another instance where we had just gotten the 119 Foxes.
Oh yeah.
Up until that point, we were using the big Bravo, right?
Yep.
It had all the knobs and everything. The Fox had the little keypad.
Yeah.
Well, whenever I got a radio check before we went out, radio check was great. And this is a learning point that I've taken throughout my military career: is never get a radio check right next to the person that you're getting the radio check with, because the radio worked fantastic right next to the truck I was getting a radio check with.
Yep.
When we got into our position, and I didn't know this because, on the Bravo, it's all right there. You can see when you're on high power and when you're on low power. Well, on the Fox, you can't really see it unless you toggle through the thing. And I was on low power, and we couldn't communicate with the trucks that were right down the road. And so I tell Calais, I'm like, hey, break out the 10-foot whip. I can't get them with the tape antenna to break out the 10-foot whip. And so he hands it to me, and it's on his back. So I'm like putting the whip in, and I can hear Randall come over the ICOM. And so I stop what I'm doing, and I try to talk to him over the ICOM radio, and I lost him. I couldn't get him again. So I start putting the whip antenna up again, and I could hear him again. And then I realized it's because I'm holding the whip antenna, I can get him over the ICOM.
You're becoming the antenna. That's fucking crazy.
The antenna. So I'm holding the whip antenna and talking to him over the ICOM. I think we were watching the Al Haq Mosque from that little hide site, and we had found what looked like the hide site for an IED trigger man, because it was right inside of a little walled area, and there was a rat hole inside that walled area. So we're like, well, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. And so we sat in that little hide site, and we're watching the Al Haq Mosque to see if anybody put an IED in. And I don't know if you remember the night before, we caught that IED trigger man that blew the IED on one of the line companies.
Yep.
And which is another funny story I'll tell her in a second. But he said to get to the mosque. Well, they were parked right outside of Saddam's mosque, and he was telling me to close with them to see if I could pick up whoever shot the RPG. But when he said get to the mosque, I thought he meant the Al Haq Mosque. So we pulled back and then went to the Al Haq Mosque. And at that point, he went driving by to combat outposts to take Morris for medevac. And then on the way back, picked us up, and then we met everybody over there where Morris got hit.
That's real good on Miranda. I don't know that I knew that part of the story because I showed up afterwards. We were in the north part of the city because we had split the platoon. And I had taken our trucks, our section up north to go do anti-mortar ops and ended up finding an insurgent meeting house instead. Uh, and basically, we were all hiding and laying down in a field while Knife crawled up like something you saw out of a Vietnam movie and got within 8 feet of the doorway and was like, I don't know what they're saying. It's like, no shit, you don't speak Arabic. And I was like, just get a count of how many men are there. And if you see any women or any children. And he was like, no women, no children. Like the most creepy voice over the over the radio.
He had to take his knife out of his mouth to talk on the radio.
Yeah. Yeah, Neil was a hell of a character. Anyway, that's really awesome on Miranda's part because Miranda was very seriously wounded by that RPG. He was covered in shrapnel.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even walk like after that. He was all, I mean, he had all kinds of wounds from that RPG. So for him to stand up in that 240 and fire back is balls out on him. And then Cohen was the other one that got wounded, right?
Well, so I think Cohen was in the turret. And when that RPG hit the truck, it blew him out of the back side of the turret.
Right.
And then Miranda got up in the gun and started shooting.
Yeah, the way it was, I don't even know if that was true, but the way it was told to me is that Morris took some of the hit. Basically, the RPG was a partial direct hit on Morris. Yeah. It bounced off of him and then hit the truck.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened because Morris had just got out of the turret and got down on the ground.
Yeah.
And when he got on the ground, the RPG hit him on the left side.
Yeah.
And then went into the essentially right there in front of the door of the truck and then dismantled the engine block. I mean, it went right into the engine block and took out the engine block. And so,
yeah, Cohen was fucked up too.
Miranda, yeah, because it knocked him out the back and Miranda was in the driver's seat. And that's where he took that shrapnel to the leg because it hit right in front of the passenger door. If it would have been just to the left a little bit, it would have taken out Morris and Miranda. I truly believe it would probably have killed Miranda too.
I mean, that's what
Miranda jumped up in the gun and started shooting.
Yeah, that's when they asked somebody, during one of these interviews, I think it was either Bing West or somebody else. Anyway, they asked me the same thing, and I said, if Morris hadn't taken the blunt of that blast, it would have killed everybody in that truck. It would have been 3 dead instead of 1.
Yeah.
And, his life saved 2 others, whether intended or not, his sacrifice saved 2 others.
Yeah. That night before that, we had gone in the same spot, which now looking back on it and it was just us 3 patrolling through the middle of Ramadi by ourselves. I mean, obviously we had guys there in support, like just down the road, but some of the places that we went, looking back on it now, I'm just dumbfounded. Like some of those stupid situations that we put ourselves into. But at the time, and I still to this day, I think we probably should have done more of those types of things where I think we could have caught a lot more insurgents doing bad things.
Yep.
Doing that kind of stuff. But we had right there by the reviewing stands, right off of Michigan, where they had the big reviewing stands. We had gone around those, kind of patrolled up, gone around those reviewing stands, and we'd gotten right on Route Michigan. The only shrubs in the whole fucking city were right there on Michigan by the reviewing stands, and there was a little bit of a ditch. And so me, Calais, and Matro could get down in this ditch, facing away from each other, and kind of had broken some of the branches down off of the shrubs to kind of cover us. So, I mean, we were in a great position. And just as we get set, we hear a patrol coming down Route Michigan out of combat outpost. And I'm like, oh, now I'm in a situation where do I stand up and let them know I'm here and possibly get shot? Or do I lay here? Maybe they don't see me. If they do, possibly get shot by my own guys. And so I'm like, we're just going to lay here. We'll see what happens. Bro, they patrolled right by us and had no idea we were laying there. They took a left right there by Al-Haq Mosque, and then they came back around. I guess they were just doing a sweeping patrol, and they were coming back.
Yeah.
And as they came back around, they hit an IED. And as they hit an IED, this one single Iraqi comes running out from between the buildings right in front of Al-Haq Mosque. And just as he passed us, we jumped up and tackled the dude and zip tied him. And threw a bag on his head and called Randall up and put him in the truck. And he kept saying, like, I'm like, where are you coming from? He's like, my girlfriend, my girlfriend. I'm like, bitch, you're not coming from your girlfriend's house. Yeah.
I remember because I don't even know where we got it. We had one digital camera. This is before cameras, right? Before everybody had fucking cameras.
Yeah.
I think Hodges had a video camera. Fuentes had a digital camera. But most individual Marines did not have digital cameras.
I had one, and I think you had one. We were the only ones.
Did you have one? Yeah.
I had bought one of those really tiny digital ones over in Tokyo. Like it was like, well, back then it was super high speed. I spent a bunch of money on it. And it was like 2 megapixels, you know.
Nowadays it wouldn't even
like 12 pictures. Like you could take 12 pictures on the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember you had that guy and we took his picture and he posed like he was posing for the cover of Vanity Fair. He was slicking back his hair and I was like, fuck you. Oh God, I hated that guy.
Yeah, that some of the stupid stuff that we did. Later on, and after Morris got hit, JD was like, we're not doing that anymore, not for a while. And so because that night that Morris got hit, we went over to Charlie Med. Something else had happened for some reason. Battalion commander was over at Charlie Med, so I guess they may have brought him to. Did they bring Morris to Charlie Med after they left?
No, Morris went. So me and Swede, our whole section basically chased over while you guys were figuring out how to hook up that Humvee for towing.
Yeah.
We went over to combat outposts and I talked to Cricard directly, the battalion surgeon.
Yeah.
And that was when first met the photographer Swanson. And he was trying to take a picture of Morris's face, burrito wrapped, to get on the helicopter. And Borrego was one of the first corpsmen that saw me and said, he's alive, but he's not good. And he was carrying him out. And that's when me and Swede turned around and was like, if you take a picture of his face, I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah.
And Swanson tells it much nicer, which I appreciate that. But Swede was very serious. Like I honestly think he would have killed him if he would have taken his picture. So fortunately he didn't. And then we went in and talked to Cricard, and Cricard, that was when he said, like, he's going straight to Baghdad. I don't have surgical supplies here. He needs surgery. And if he makes it through the night, maybe he'll make it. And well, the story is history. He didn't make it through the night. I don't think he made it 5 or 6 hours, but even to make it 5 or 6 hours after taking a direct RPG hit is insane and a testament to the kid's spirit. But that was a mess. But then we took, because Cohen and Miranda had to be all bandaged up. That's why we drove to Charlie Med. After we got the truck, we hooked up the truck, and I think we dropped the truck at Combat Outpost, didn't we? I don't think we took it all the way back to Hurricane Point, or did we? No, we did. We took it back to Hurricane Point, and it got dismantled within 2 days, like they were crackheads.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what it was. And then Kennedy met us over at Hurricane Point.
Yeah,
and JD came and got me and Matroka, and he's like, hey, Colonel Kennedy wants to talk to you guys. So we go walk over there, and Colonel Kennedy's like, let me get this straight. He's like, so you were out there by yourselves with no automatic weapons? We were like, yes, sir. And he was like, did you at least have any grenades on you? I'm like, oh, yes, sir, we did. And he was like, oh, okay. All right. So after he got through talking to us, we started walking away, and my trunk was like, we had grenades? And I was like, I've got one. But then, like, fast forward to us after we were doing the left seat, right seat, and we're downloading all of our ammo and stuff like that. Me, you, and Randall stayed back to do the left seat, right seat with those guys when they replaced us. And Randall's like, hey, you got to turn your grenades in. I'm like, no. He's like, no, they need your grenades. I'm like, if I'm going outside the wire, these grenades are staying on me. And the only way you're getting them is taking them off my dead body. And he was like, all right, fine. So you're not taking anything of mine until I get to where I don't need it anymore.
I think the mindset shift after the 6th, 7th, and 10th was so profound in that way. I mean, you were talking about only having, Randall thinking I could just run around with 4 mags.
Yeah.
and you had 6 mags, right? And I was the same. I went out with a normal TO of 1 grenade, 1 smoke grenade. I had
Yeah.
6 mags. I didn't have a backup plan, and we had ammo in the truck, 1 can of ammo on the 6th.
Yeah.
When we rolled out on the 7th, again, I don't know how Gunny Mararki did it. I That man should have a statue built somewhere in Ramadi because he saved all of weapons companies' asses anyway. He squirreled away so much goddamn ammo in those Connex boxes and behind the hooches and everywhere else that when we left on the 7th and the 10th, we had enough to outfit the whole company
Oh
in
yeah.
each truck.
Yeah.
And I never carried less than 10 mags.
Yeah. And then every seat had a full can
Oh yeah.
of
Of
5.56.
loaded
Yeah.
mags, not just 5.56, but it had loaded mags. And yeah, every truck seat had another reload.
Yeah.
It was a insane mental shift. You would have never thought, like, when could I ever fire 180 rounds or whatever it would be, right?
Right.
And then you're like, well, that's 2 hours in a good ambush. That's 2 hours.
Yeah. Which, if you remember, that on the 7th, the only reason we broke contact is because we had almost run out of Mark 19 ammo.
Yep.
I think we had one full can, and whatever was in the gun, and we were like, "Hey, we're not going to have anything to get home on." And so that's
yeah, we had one saw, and I don't even know why we had a saw, but we had one saw, and we threw it up to who? I think was it Richie that was running the Mark 19 that ran out of ammo. He had 1 can left, and we're like, hey, if you run out, here's a saw.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I wish we'd have. I think Matroka. I don't know where that saw came from because I know Matroka carried that thing for a while.
Yep.
As a dismount.
Yep.
I don't know where that thing came from, but one night I don't even remember what we were doing. Oh, we were tasked with going out and watching the IPs because the IPs would have those posts on all the checkpoints going down Michigan, and so I don't remember who all it was. It was 6 of us. I remember that, and it was. I know Matroka was there. Miranda might have been there, and it was the combat replacements we got was the majority of those guys.
Lopez and Martinez and
2 brothers.
Wow, now I can't remember their names, and now I feel really bad. I'll have to think about it. Colonel and we called him Colonel. I don't know what his actual name. I can't think what his actual name was. That feels really shitty.
And then the guy we call Rabbit. I don't remember what his name was either.
Yep.
But
I'll think of it in a minute.
6 of us, and we were. I was like, the roof of that house would be perfect. And usually we'd go in a house and be like, hey, we're going to go sit on the roof of your house. And, we'd have somebody watch the family while we would sit up on the roof. But this time we kind of snuck in the kitchen, and the family was in the main room, and they didn't know that we had come in. And so we got all the way up to the roof without anybody knowing we were in there. They didn't know we were in their house. And so we sat on the roof for a couple of hours without them knowing. And as we came back down, I was on point coming down the stairs. And this little girl comes sliding across the floor in her socks right in front of me. And I just looked at her and go, shh. And she goes, and takes off right back towards the living room. And so we scurry out the back door. And Martinez was the last guy. And the old man come out from the living room, come running down the hallway. And he just goes, And then we just scurried out the back door. And I remember Matroka running across the road, and his drum fell out of the saw, and so his belt for the saw just like flopping over. I'm like, Matroka, get your shit together, dude.
His name was Gonzalez. His name was Gonzalez. Manuel Gonzalez.
Gonzalez, yeah. Gonzo, yeah.
Gonzo. Yeah, we called him Pancho and Lefty forever.
Yeah, because weren't they like
they were brothers? They are brothers.
Yeah,
they both live in Texas now. They're both brothers. Yeah,
but they look completely different because Gonzalez was like muscular, and then the other one.
Yeah.
Some of these situations, I have no idea how the hell we got out of there unscathed.
I think everybody was new. I mean, that's the boon and the bane of that early development. Like as you're still trying to figure out, they're trying to figure it out too. And so that shit wouldn't fly now, but it did then because everybody was still figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you remember we went into Ramadi with every 50 cal. I only had 2 cans of ammo, and I think everybody had whatever their personal loadout, but there was no more ammo. And we had Sabo rounds for the 50 cal, like the anti-armor Sabo rounds, and going into the city, and nobody thought we were going to get into what we got into,
No.
And that was something I was going to touch on a little bit earlier. We were talking about how, like, I don't think it was done on purpose, but not everybody was aware of the plan every time you went outside the wire. But I also think back then Intel was a lot more controlled. Like, they didn't really want everybody knowing what was actually going on in the Intel. And I feel like the military, because right after we left, they started doing the company Intel cells. They would send an Intel guy to each company, and then they would augment with a couple of grunts to be like the Intel cell. And so I think that kind of like opened up the Intel like world to the lowest level a lot more than what we experienced when we were there. And so, after I left 2-4, I got out again, and then turned around, came back in, and moved into the Intel field. And that was one of the reasons why I was like, I hated that feeling of not knowing what was going on.
Yeah.
And so at least this way I will, make sure nobody else has to go through that same thing. So, which is funny because I got into arguments with Intel instructors at Intel school all the time. Like, no, that's not how that works. Like, that is not how operations work. But
well, I mean, that's almost the difference between an engineer, an architect, and a construction worker, right? Like, you can do it on paper, and then the architect can do it in 3D, but then it's the construction worker who really knows how those boards end up going in the house. Like, it's the same as this. And I don't know why we did that. But you're right. I think when it came to planning, most of the time, at least for our platoon, I can't speak for every other platoon. I don't know how they disseminated information, but for our platoon specifically, it was me and Randall and Lieutenant Stevens, JD Stevens, and we discussed the plan at the head shed, or we discussed it in our talk at our little hooches with the radios. And we did a little map exercise, and we'd talk about what we were going to do. But I don't think I ever remember telling anybody else what was going on until we got there.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's looking back, that is stupid as hell. That is really dumb, because I mean, 3 people knowing the plan, and you know how spread out 6 Humvees can get real quick.
Yeah.
It's easy to have 1 or 2 Humvees that are way separated away from everybody else, and to not know what the overarching plan or direction of what we're doing is what is pretty bad. I mean, we didn't have any of the technology. We didn't have drones or Blue Force trackers or any of that shit. We just had, and half the time we were communicating with hand signals because of what you were talking about earlier, where radios weren't working.
Yeah, we had the comm situation for us was just absolutely horrible. But I mean, honestly, it was the same for everybody. It wasn't like we were getting picked on or whatever, but it was the same for everybody. Like, I was very fortunate to be on an amazing team at MARSOC whenever my first MARSOC deployment. And like, everybody had you remember when we got those Embiter radios when we were like, JD had one?
Yes.
We only had one for the whole platoon. Like, every single individual on that team had an Embiter radio. Which honestly, I think for a map platoon, that should be SOP, but which it might be nowadays. I don't know.
It probably is. It's probably lessons learned after our after actions reports were like, I couldn't talk to anybody. I don't know.
This PRR sucks. But before every mission, we had a terrain model. We would rock talk it on a terrain model, and then we would put essentially make a large terrain model out on the LZ, and we'd actually walk it. Which, I mean, obviously we didn't have the space to do all that kind of stuff, but we did have the space to probably build a terrain model and walk these things. And that's what, obviously, hindsight is 2020, and we made the best of what what we had at the time. But I honestly think all the stuff that Meraki did with the company prior to that, all those flat ranges and all that stuff that we did, all that mount training and stuff we did with him, probably saved a lot of people. A lot of people.
Very much so.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, because I don't know of any other company that was getting the same quality of training as we did, prior to us going out. And this before we even knew we were going to Iraq. That was just Meraki's way of training. Like this, I tell people all the time, there were times where me and you and a couple of guys from the platoon, we'd get out there on the baseball field just dry firing on targets on the fence.
Yep.
We put on the fence, running through dry firing drills and stuff. So, and we still do that to this day. The good teams do.
Yeah, I mean, making your weapons handling skills second nature is what was such a big deal. And even you're talking about, issues with headspace and timing or stuff like that. But I remember weapons failures on the X but people being able to clear it pretty quick and getting guns up real fast. And it was because of just the insane amount of drills that we would do with everything. There was no thought to it. You're like, oh, I know exactly what I have to do. I got to do this and this and this and open this and do that. And there was never a thought. We never had to worry about somebody having to pull a gun down or anything like that. No, they could get it up.
Yeah, and we did. I mean, it became a pastime. Like when you don't have anything else to do, you're out there doing disass drills and
right
the guns, and then obviously you make it fun by making fun of each other and turning it into competitions and stuff. But
the only time I remember us doing a terrain model was before the convoy up from Kuwait. Do you remember doing that crap?
Yeah.
We talked about what we would do because we had so many 7 tons in the convoy. And actually what's funny is all 3 of us here were in the same convoy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we were in the very first convoy from our battalion to cross the Kuwait border and drive up to Ramadi. And we sat there and acted like we were trucks and drove around walking in the sand to talk about what we would do for contact left, contact right, broke down vehicle, all that stuff. Yeah,
and those convoy ops, I mean, those things have paid, like just knowing that stuff paid dividend. And I always took it for granted that everybody did that kind of stuff, but there's been deployments that I've been on where I'm teaching guys on deployment, like how to do a convoy brief. And you're like, wait, this is your job. I'm like, you don't know how to do a convoy brief? But yeah, I mean, it was, I took that for granted that everybody knew how to do that kind of stuff. But then you look, then it becomes apparent as to why you see guys on TV that are, in bad situations and get flexi cuffed on TV in an Iranian jail cell or something like that because they got lost in the middle of the night, or you have to go fight them in a hospital because they got lost because they didn't know what they were doing.
If you like what you've heard, this is a multi-part episode. Make sure you listen to the rest of the story.